Why, howdy, folks. So I get home from work today. Turn on the old computer and I'm looking around. I thought, let's click on this CNN. CNN, the news channel, website, whatever, on the internet. So I'm looking around for something to read, and I see something about iguanas taking over. I thought, this sounds interesting. So I click on this thing. There's this big lady there, smiling face, down in Boca Raton. Did I say that right? Boca Raton, Florida. And she's fretting about the iguana population there. So there's a news lady, and she's watching iguanas sitting out in the sun. I guess she said the biggest one was just about 6 foot long. The lady that was talking to this reporter said she was very worried about the iguana population, that they're scary. She called them ugly too. That's just a matter of opinion. Ugly, scary. I don't know, I think an alligator might be a little bit scary. An alligator would do more damage than an iguana. Iguanas, like the reporter mentioned, are pretty much vegetarians. And they're not really the type of animal that just goes and attacks things for fun. You know, if you're cornering an iguana and get it scared, it might whip you with its tail. I guess it could even bite you. I had a pet iguana once. Actually, I had more than one. The first one I had, this iguana was wonderful. It only had a bad mood, I think, one time all the years I had it. I came home from work, and I don't know what was up with my iguana, but it was mad. It was hissing, and I'm like, whoa, what's with my iguana? Because this iguana was always as friendly as can be. Well, iguanas can hold their breath, I think, like 20 minutes or something like that. I thought, well, I'm going to cool this iguana down. I filled up my kitchen sink with water. It wasn't ice cold or anything, but it wasn't warm water. It was kind of cool water. I thought, I'm going to just set my iguana down in this water. They like water. It dove right to the bottom of the sink. I said, okay. Well, I knew iguanas could hold their breath for a long time, but this crazy iguana, I was getting worried. I mean, it's down there like 10, 15 minutes. I think, is it alive yet? You know. So I reach down, I pull the iguana up, and as soon as it gets its head out of the water, it's still mad, right? And it's carrying on. I let it go back to the bottom. I did this a couple times, and eventually it got back to normal. And never again did that iguana ever show that kind of anger. I don't know what was up with it. It was having a bad day. A bad hair day, right? Yeah. My iguana got to be relatively big. Not as big as that 6 foot one they were talking about in that little news story, but I used to take it for walks in the park. And old ladies and little kids would come up and they'd pet it, and it was as peaceful and calm as can be. I used to take it canoeing. I had like a leash, you know, and I put a leash on it, and I'd set it down, and I'd go like out in a lake or whatnot, and I'd set it down in the water, and it would start swimming around. And I'd try to keep an eye on it if everything was fine, and I kind of kicked back a little into the canoe, and I shut my eyes for maybe a couple minutes. I wasn't really concerned about the iguana getting hurt, because, I mean, they're natural swimmers. And I'm out, not quite in the middle of the lake, just kind of kicking back. I open my eyes and I look, and this crazy iguana swam to the shore, which was, I don't know, 100 feet, 200 feet away, whatever. It was pretty far. It was like having a little motor. Just from the leash on my canoe, the iguana swam and it practically had my canoe up on land again. Couldn't believe it. Well, that iguana was a sad thing. Late one night, it got some kind of lung infection. And I thought, well, I'll see if I could take it to a vet the next day, because it was like midnight. And when I woke up the next day, it had died. Broke my heart, because, I mean, me and that iguana, we were like buddies for years. I just sat there and stared at it. Just couldn't believe it had died. So I buried it. Buried it in my yard. I thought, well, I guess I can get another one. I went to a pet store, and there was a guy there. I told him a story, and he says he has an iguana about the same size as the one I had, and he said his iguana was friendly and all this stuff. So I said, you know, yeah, I'll take it. He said he'd sell it to me. Now that iguana was nasty. That iguana, it didn't mind sitting out in the sun and stuff, but it didn't like to be picked up. It whipped me a bunch of times with its tail and stuff. I never really got hurt too bad, but it stung a little bit. So for this lady down in Florida to make a big deal about the threat of these iguanas, this is pathetic. You know what? It's the encroachment of humanity all over the place that takes the habitat of animals. Now, I don't know if the iguana is actually native to Florida. I don't believe it is. But with all the other non-native life that humans have brought here, iguana really is not going to be harmful. So I thought it was a pretty sad story about the iguana. And, you know, here's these two people, this lady, and I guess it might have been her husband, you know, saying the iguana will be attacking children and attacking pets, dogs going for walks. It's like, well, you're crazy. You know, the odds are if you walked up to an iguana, it's going to just go running away from you. And there you have it. So that was my little iguana story. You might catch the CNN story yourself. This is what is about going forward on Thursday afternoon, September 18th. So I don't know how long they keep those stories up, but you can see the iguanas there in the video there on CNN. Kind of big. I'd love it. I personally would love it to have iguanas around. Of course, I live in the Northeast, and they it'd be too cold here. They'd die in the wintertime. But down in Florida, that's pretty much like the kind of habitat they'd feel comfortable in. Now, normally I'm not into introduced species, but we got to kind of weigh the situation. And an iguana is not really going to do any harm. If you think about it, the human population is an introduced species to America. If you go back far enough, there were no people here. Now we're talking tens of thousands of years ago. We introduced ourselves here. So other animals and plants do wind up getting introduced. It's with the humans introducing animals and plants, the main problem is the competition. There was the introduction of various birds that caused a lot of competition. We lost a lot of the bluebird population because of the introduction of the sparrow, or not sparrow, the starling, the European starling, which was more aggressive than the native bluebirds. And were competing for the bluebird homes, like holes in wooden fences and whatnot that the bluebirds traditionally have been nesting in. I guess before man, the bluebirds would have had to find holes in trees and whatnot. But anyway, there are bluebirds around. I don't remember seeing them when I was a kid, but they made somewhat of a comeback, which is good. There are a lot of introduced plants. Anyway, this video was about the iguana. The big iguana problem, according to these two people. So take a look at that video and see you in it. Talk to you all later.